Exactly. Let's jump into that game one and see exactly what hyper offense modes these players are going to go for. It's going to be the Dragapult and the Terrakion. You're going to be doubly happy about that, Adam, as am I, to be honest, as the Corviknight and the Amoonguss come out for Antonio. So big offensive pressure from Edoardo straight away.
I like Edoardo's lead. I think Terrakion Dragapult is really a solid pairing, right? I mean, you can't bring dark types that easily to deal with the Dragapult because you've got Terrakion there, and Terrakion and a ghost type is something that I'm particularly fond of when it comes to team building. That said, Antonio, even though his team has a number of really offensive options, he's got this really nice defensive lead that also just applies some really problematic pressure in response as well. So not quite what I was expecting from his team, particularly in the lead. But, I mean, it's actually just a really good matchup against Terrakion Dragapult.
I love this lead though coming up from Edoardo and the strong start he's making. He's going for that Dynamax Dragapult straight away in turn 1, which really shows how he wants to be dealing out so much damage straight away. But Antonio also going to go for the Dynamax. Now, I always try and not look in that bottom right-hand corner, Adam, and get any spoilers. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the Amoonguss, but I think instead it's going to be the Corviknight, and that's exactly what it is. Corviknight, again, a really great Pokemon to Dynamax. You can go for things like the Max Airstream and boost up your speed, or also Max Steel Spikes and boost up your defense. And against 2 physical attackers, that will not be a bad idea at all if you're Corviknight. Amoonguss, going for that Rage Powder. Again, really like this. You can redirect away the Max move from that Dragapult, which is going for that Max Phantasm. So going to go straight into that Amoonguss, deal a decent amount of damage, and going to be able to activate that Mirror Armor as well on the Corviknight, that then bounces back onto the Clear Body. So a really interesting interactions of the abilities here, and again, just really showing how well Clear Body works on that Dragapult. It gets it out of so many sticky situations.
The Dragapult doing a whole lot of damage there, but the Corviknight sticks around, doesn't take much damage from the Rock Slide that Terrakion threw there at all, and lands a Max Airstream, quite interestingly, favouring the speed boost over that defense boost. That said, you know, Terrakion's are known to carry the Focus Sash. We saw that actually on Edoardo's earlier when we were looking at from his side of the game, so we knew about that. Most players expect that, and I think getting the Max Airstream and the speed boost means that you'll be in a better position to throw out the Steel Spike in a following turn, and then that Steel Spike kind of helps you get through the rest of the game. So certainly some interesting options here. We will look at the Arcanine coming in. Of course, the Arcanine's not going to have the benefit of the speed boost, which is not kind of exactly what you want, but it gets the Intimidate down. That said, it doesn't have Fake Out.
No, that's true. That's where Arcanine kind of has the advantage, where it gets the Fake Out utility, but I think, sorry, Incineroar I should say, but Arcanine here actually having still that Intimidate, can apply that to the Terrakion, and Terrakion's had its Focus Sash broken now, so it's in a precarious position. I like from the Corviknight going for that Max Airstream as well, going to be able to boost up the speed like you said, and that's really setting them up throughout the rest of this match. You can still apply pressure to that Terrakion with another Max Airstream, and you can apply some decent pressure to that Dragapult as well, going for those Max Steel Spikes and trying to get your defense up. That also will help out that Arcanine going forward from any any Rock Slides. First of all, though, it's going to have to take that Max Phantasm once again, so targeting down into the Arcanine, able to survive, and we're going to see that interaction between Mirror Armor and Clear Body once again, really kind of being a stalemate out here on the field, which is interesting to see. Arcanine not so lucky, though, would of course take the drop, as Corviknight goes for the Max Steel Spike, going to target down to that Terrakion, and I really like this play. You've got the speed there, but it wasn't enough to outspeed the Dragapult at the end of that turn, and going for the Steel Strike boosts up your defenses and still manages to pick up the KO against that Terrakion, which was applying a lot of pressure to your Arcanine.
This Arcanine's about to put in some work as well without Will-O-Wisp. That's going to be really annoying to deal with if you're the Dragapult. And I think what Antonio's done there is played it quite well. Yes, the temptation to Steel Spike turn 1 was there, but he got the boost with the speed from Airstream, which was kind of key in turn number 1, because then he's able to Steel Spike before the Terrakion even gets to move. So the Terrakion wasn't actually able to take advantage of the defense drop from Max Phantasm on something like that Arcanine. You know, obviously the Corviknight's bouncing it back, so you're not even able to start building them up on that. And I think that a lot of value just heading towards this Corviknight, and what it's been able to do here. It's been able to Airstream and Steel Spike. So yeah, the Arcanine's back at neutral defense, but the Corviknight itself is probably feeling pretty bulky right now, and probably able to kind of take on a lot of what's going to be thrown at it. So a lot going into it, but importantly, speed boosts coming through. And those speed boosts could be an issue if Edoardo does decide to Trick Room, which his Porygon could do, but they've helped him out in the early turns.
Certainly, this Corviknight really putting in the work, and Arcanine getting that Will-O-Wisp off is critical. Dragapult going to go for another Max Phantasm, so we'll be able to utilize all its Max moves going into that Arcanine. But Arcanine through to Protect is, of course, going to be able to survive. It's not going to be able to do anything about the drop, and once again, that interaction comes out. And Corviknight really is sitting in a great position. You know, it's not going to be affected by any of the Max moves that this Dragapult has gone for, and it's just going to be able to keep setting up on its side of the field. And Arcanine actually working really well through that Protect, actually regained some health thanks to its Berry, as Corviknight goes for that Max Steel Spike, this time being able to get the damage out onto that Dragapult. Not a lot of damage, but the defense boost is up on that side of the field once again, and that's going to really help out Antonio's Corviknight for later in this game. Porygon 2 going to go for the Thunderbolt. This is excellent here from Edoardo. It's what he needs, because Thunderbolt, of course, being a special attacking move, isn't going to worry about those defense boosts and can still deal out some really big damage.
It's a really good time for Edoardo to have a special attacker after a couple Steel Spikes. It is hard to work through this Corviknight, and yeah, getting a special attack, especially the amount of damage it did while it was Dynamax as well. I mean, it was still a huge percentage of its health. The Porygon 2 is probably feeling pretty good about its chances to be able to pick that one up in the next turn or so. That said, Eduardo's really just relying on the Porygon right now. That Dragapult with the Will-O-Wisp down, really not feeling it. And it's not been able to get any defense drops on something like this Corviknight. So, you know, yeah, the Arcanine's a little bit weaker, but it's been getting kind of boosts from the Steel Spike, and Corviknight's actually been able to hold on to those boosts really nicely because of the Mirror Armor.
Yeah, I love this here from Corviknight. Takes literally no damage from the Dragon Darts and is able to go for that Roost and regain some HP. Snarl coming out from the Arcanine again provides really good synergy here, because Porygon 2 is a threat to that Corviknight. You want to lower its special attack so the Thunderbolts really aren't dealing that much damage. You're really not worried about the Dragapult at this stage. You need to do something to protect your Corviknight from that Porygon 2. Porygon 2, however, is able to get Trick Room up, which is interesting.
That was actually really heads-up play by Antonio there, because Roost would remove the flying type, so, you know, if something had gone drastically wrong, he just would have been in a lot better position to take that Thunderbolt. So really smart heads-up play, and then in return, I think another good kind of forward-thinking play from Edoardo to actually land the Trick Room there. So really thinking this one through. Ooh, the Paralysis landing could be interesting in the Trick Room. Certainly something that you have to think about. Oh, the Lumberry.
I mean, it definitely would have been interesting with that kind of speed mechanic going on in the environment, but the Lumberry going to stop us from having to worry about any of those kind of shenanigans, and Snarl coming out once again to lower the special attack even further of that Porygon 2. Damage coming out though from the Corviknight, going to pick up a KO against the Dragapult. Of course, we weren't really worried about the Dragapult on the field if you're Antonio, and it does give Eduardo the opportunity to now to switch in another Pokemon, maybe even something like that Terrakion to deal with the Arcanine, but instead it's going to be the Rillaboom, which is a really interesting choice considering you're up against a Corviknight with something like Brave Bird and a Arcanine with, you know, Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, I mean, Arcanine with any fire type move, really. That said, I mean, Eduardo might be down to his last two, but he's very, very healthy. And that is kind of the complete opposite to Antonio, who has this current kind of pair on the field that are particularly low. Of course, we've talked about it a few times, Rillaboom, with the priority move, can kind of play around the Trick Room, but these are not the two Pokemon you want to be doing it against, nor is the Amoonguss. So he just has to be a little bit kind of slow and patient around it. That said, I mean, this Porygon 2 just keeps on trying, but those Snarls have been really adding up.
I mean, the Corviknight not being able to protect there could have been curtains for Antonio with the Fake Out and the Thunderbolt, but Corviknight able to hang on, able to make it out through this turn, and Arcanine going for that Heat Wave does deal some really good damage to the Rillaboom, but I definitely want to say Corviknight's in a bit of a precarious situation here. You know, it's only on 4 HP, anything's going to be able to pick up the KO against it, and, you know, it's not able to protect in this situation. It might be where Antonio needs to switch it out, but then you lose the boosts.
You certainly do, and those boosts have been pretty essential throughout kind of the next few turns. What is a little bit concerning for Antonio is we saw him hover that last Pokemon. That will be the Gastrodon, and the Rillaboom at any point, as long as Grassy Terrain is up, can just Grassy Glide it and deal with it that way. So I'll be curious to see kind of how this one pans out. If that is a win condition, maybe looking to take a Thunderbolt. That's probably what he's fishing for here. And it looks like maybe Antonio is saying, yeah, I really don't want to be playing in Trick Room, and that's something that he's thinking about. Good heads-up play by Eduardo to Ice Beam rather than throw out moves like the Thunderbolt with a potential ground type in the back.
Yeah, I really like that play, really identifying that there was the potential for a Gastrodon to switch in. Ice Beam obviously still going to deal a little bit of damage, which is better than no damage as the Thunderbolt would have done. The Wood Hammer coming out though from the Rillaboom going into the Arcanine Protect, not going to be dealing too much damage, but like you said, Grassy Terrain's still up, and that Gastrodon is in a really precarious position. And to be honest, it's a little bit difficult for Antonio here. It's not like you can switch that Corviknight back in with 4 HP to be able to take an attack. If anything connects with it, it's going to be going down, and it's definitely an awkward situation for him here. You maybe, if you have Protect on that Gastrodon, can try and stall out an extra turn and bring the Corviknight in another way. And I mean, Corviknight's joining in here for the Arcanine, so you're preserving that Intimidate for later on, which can definitely be useful against that Rillaboom. As Gastrodon, however, goes for that Earth Power, going to connect into Rillaboom, really not dealing too much damage at all. Yes, it gets a special defense drop, but if anything's going into that opposing Gastrodon, it's going to be able to pick up the KO. Thunderbolt KOing the Corviknight, and it really looks like it's Rillaboom's taking for this Gastrodon.
Yeah, Rillaboom launching the Wood Hammer there. Of course, it will take a lot of damage itself in recoil. That's landing a huge amount of damage. Easy knockout, 4 times super effective. The Rillaboom, though, bringing itself dangerously low with that recoil. Maybe just thinking about a switch or just a potential Protect there. But this Rillaboom easily going to be picked up by this Arcanine now, and I think preserving the Arcanine actually really, really wise. That said, I mean, it's everything on this Arcanine, and this Porygon too should be able to kind of just take maybe a Heat Wave and go from there. So this Wood Hammer, yeah, it got the knockout, but it could actually, with the recoil, cost Edoardo this game.
There were definitely great plays on both sides here. You know, preserving the Arcanine was great. You can preserve it for the moment Trick Room's over, apply some pressure with the Heat Wave. But then on the same time, Edoardo really made some expert calls there, you know, going for the Ice Beam into the Gastrodon, and then in that previous turn, getting a double knockout by targeting the Thunderbolt into the Corviknight switch in, and of course, just naturally going for your Grass type move into a Gastrodon. I mean, why not? It's, you know, 4 times effective. You're going to be able to pick up the KO. But Antonio now is in this position where he's got this Arcanine on the field. First of all, he's to be able to connect his Heat Wave. That will pick up the KO against Rillaboom, but against Porygon 2 that's so bulky, I feel like Porygon 2 can weigh this out.
Porygon 2 can 100% just stall this out. I mean, Porygon 2 is not going to be taking damage from, or that much damage from Heat Waves. Rillaboom does have access to Grassy Glide. Obviously, a lot of people use it, and it's kind of shocking that he didn't use it last turn instead of the Wood Hammer. I think the Grassy Glide would have been preferred there. And that, you know, all that damage is now added up to a knockout from the Heat Wave. But Porygon 2 in a pretty solid position to just start trying to close this game out. Not enough with that one. Yeah, we're going to be going a few turns with the Grassy Terrain recovery, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe he went for the Wood Hammer on the previous turn in case the Arcanine had switched in for the Gastrodon, but I mean, either way, having that Grassy Glide really helped out the Porygon here by taking it down to lower HP, but Porygon 2, I think, with something like the Thunderbolt, could still do some good damage, and eventually Grassy Terrain is going to expire, and Porygon 2 will have access to something like Recover. So no matter how much damage it takes, you know, there's no flinch potential on what Arcanine is doing, there's no taunt. So Porygon 2 is going to be in a great position here that a couple of turns down the line is going to be able to pick up the KO. But if you're Antonio now, and you can really see he's counting that clock down, because losing out on this game, this is your last match in the tournament if you lose. So he needs to be able to take every single second to think about what he's going to do in game 2.
Yeah, and I mean, he's locking in Heat Wave. It's going to be single target now, so he's going to be doing a little bit more. He's got to at least try and fire back. I think Porygon 2 takes that so well, though. And the Thunderbolt should just be able to wrap it up. There it is. Edoardo Ferraris taking the first game in this match.
Exactly, he needs to maybe react a little bit more to that Trick Room environment that Edoardo set up and managed to utilize really well with that Porygon 2 and, you know, being able to apply pressure in that way. So let's jump into game 2 and see what kind of action these players are going to be getting up to, whether Edoardo is going to be able to stay as hyper offensive as he did in game 2, or if Antonio is maybe going to have some more offensive answers for him. However, I see, again, your favourite combination here, Adam. There is going to be a Terrakion and a Dragapult, so once again, defensive start for Edoardo, and similarly to Antonio with that Dragapult and Corviknight.
Yep, no reason not to. I think for both trainers, they got in a really good position based off the lead and maybe just want to play it out a little bit differently. Maybe considering where the airstreams land is going to be important, particularly for Edoardo. He could really carve open a huge advantage if he's able to kind of keep up with that. So both trainers mulling it over. I think it's going to be important to not fall behind in that one. Obviously, the Steel Spike is very tempting, but keeping up the airstreams is important. And this Terrakion really didn't get much done in the last game, so I imagine Edoardo is going to want to get a little more value out of that as it goes along.
Well, going straight on the offensive once again for Edoardo, going to be clicking that Dynamax button, but instead it's going to be the Terrakion in play. And I wonder, Adam, if maybe we're going to see a certain type of synergy coming out from Edoardo's side. We have yet to determine that. Antonio, of course, here with his Corviknight and the Amoonguss, will also be going for his Dynamax. As always, I know I hope it's the Amoonguss, but that Corviknight was so strong for him in Game 1. If he's able to still utilise it as strongly, going for those max airstreams to try and boost up the speed, or even just in this situation, I think going for those max steel spikes and trying to get your defense up as high as possible will be the optimal play for him here. Amoonguss, of course, still being in a great position to go for something like the redirection here, which I think is going to have to be critical with this lead.
Getting that redirection up is essential to keep this Corviknight going. That said, it's here. It's a classic. We haven't seen it in years. It's beat up into Terrakion, activating that justified ability. It's hit for every Pokemon in the party. I know there's certain people that love this strategy. There's certain people that hate it. But that Terrakion's attack stat is huge, and it's still not enough to get through Amoonguss.
No, exactly. You know, Amoonguss being amazing there with the redirection, taking that beat up away, because I feel like once you get set up with your Terrakion, there is just so much you can do. The max airstream going in, but of course being Dynamaxed, going to be in a great position to be able to take that. You know, last time it was looking like a 2-hit, but Terrakion's able to take that much, much better. And of course, Sand going around as well, going to be dealing a little bit more chip. But if you're Edoardo, you need to get rid of this Amoonguss as quickly as possible, because it's going to disrupt your beat up strategy.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, it's just, it's able to keep on going. So, I mean, the Amoonguss is a problem there. The Amoonguss is a huge problem, but, I mean, you've just got to kind of play respectfully around it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with that Amoonguss as well, like, you know, Spore's something that you still have to worry about for Edoardo. You might worry that there's the follow me, so you won't go for beat up, but then you're going to get hit by a Spore.
It's a tough decision to make, and I think this Amoonguss is certainly a big problem. The fact it's not able to get the knockout is really an issue here. I think this Terrakion as a Dynamax is definitely underwhelming in this current position.
Well, Terrakion going on the defensive, getting that max guard up, doesn't want to take any additional damage from that Corviknight. And Amoonguss as well wants to stay on the field and help out his buddy for a little bit longer. Corviknight is able to have that long deal spike connecting to the max guard of the Terrakion. So really sort of defensive plays in this particular turn. 2 protects, no damage being dealt. But the critical thing, I think, is Edoardo has managed to get his Porygon 2 on the field. And that was a Pokemon that caused a lot of problems for Corviknight in the previous game. Of course, Amoonguss still hanging around on the field, but that's something that Terrakion can deal with quite easily and enable the Porygon 2 to set up that Trick Room once again.
We'll see exactly how much the Terrakion can do. I don't think it's my favourite Dynamax by a long shot, to be quite honest with you. So it's going to be a tough one for it. But Corviknight's just getting things done as a Dynamax, which I think is absolutely key.
It certainly is. Going for that max steel spike, dealing so much damage, not enough to pick up the KO, but once again, just getting those defense boosts, particularly on that Gastrodon that's just switched in, is certainly going to appreciate those boosts, particularly as Max Rockfall is coming out, going to connect onto that Gastrodon. But you can see how well it takes that. Not very effective, and with the defense boost, going to be able to survive as the Trick Room goes up. And this is an environment that Gastrodon really likes to be in. We saw it go first in that Trick Room environment, so I think it was a really clever switch in here by Antonio.
This game is certainly going Antonio's favour. I think it's safe to say he got so much more out of his Dynamax. There was so many issues with the beat-up strategy that just, you know, didn't quite pay out as you'd imagine. So, yeah, I think this game has really swung quickly into Antonio's favour as we get to the end of that Dynamax phase.
It certainly has. I mean, Antonio here, you can see he's really thinking about where he's going to be switching his Pokemon, and that's something he's done quite dynamically in this game too, is make those brave switches and put his Pokemon in a position where they can really help with not only the synergy, but also stop his opponent from getting off the moves they want to. For example, like with that beat up, and now that Trick Room's up, he's got a Gastrodon on the field, and an Amoonguss. 2 perfect Trick Room Pokemon here. Terrakion, though, outside of its Dynamax, is going to give a little helping hand to its partner Porygon 2. as Gastrodon does go for that Scald. So going to go straight into that Terrakion and remove it from the field so it doesn't have to worry about any potential rock slides and stop that Helping Hand from boosting up the Porygon 2 in later turns. Porygon 2, however, is going to go for that Ice Beam with the boost from the Helping Hand. It's going to be enough to pick up the KO against that Amoonguss. So Amoonguss sadly is going to be leaving the field, but once again it gives Antonio the opportunity to bring in another Pokemon and apply some good pressure here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Antonio's going to have to kind of fire back as quickly as possible. And losing the Amoonguss, not the end of the world. It took Helping Hand, and you traded it for the Terrakion. So, really good position here. We are going to see Edoardo's last Pokemon being the Rillaboom. And the Rillaboom should be able to deal with this Gastrodon pretty handily. That's why I think it's nice that the Arcanine is on the field pairing up with this Gastrodon. Really able to kind of cause some problems. And if this Rillaboom can be handled, then he's going to be in a great position.
Yeah, again, you've got that triangle with the Fire, Water, Grass core, but I feel like Rillaboom is in a great position still because Arcanine, yes, with the Heat Wave, we know it can't pick up the KO, but anything that Rillaboom does to the Gastrodon is going to remove it completely from the field. So Arcanine can try all it likes, but it really does need, I think, 2 turns in order to alleviate the threat of that Rillaboom from the Gastrodon. But of course, Gastrodon in the Trick Room environment does like to be able to deal out some good damage, but against a Rillaboom where you can't deal super effective moves to, and a Porygon 2 that's so bulky, it doesn't look to be in the best position.
No, I mean, it's certainly going to be a tough one. Gastrodon, though, does kind of get a little bit of wiggle room here to play as the Fake Out from Rillaboom lands, and that's huge for the Gastrodon, landing the Scald when it needed it.
That good little Gastrodon getting the Scald on that opposing Rillaboom. Arcanine, of course, going to flinch due to the Fake Out, but that really does just take a little bit of pressure off Arcanine and Gastrodon where you don't have to fear the Rillaboom as much. Of course, it is still going to be dealing out 4 times effective damage and the grassy terrain is up, so it'll be interesting to see if the burn actually helps out the Gastrodon specifically. But I think overall, looking towards this kind of endgame, the Rillaboom really isn't a threat for the Arcanine or the Corviknight.
The Rillaboom's definitely not as threatening now it's burned, and there's no easy way to clear that, right? There's no misty terrains and things to kind of help you out there. So, really a tough situation if you're the Rillaboom here. You are being relied on to deal huge damage to this Gastrodon, but you're burned now, and that one Scald, yeah, it's not very effective, but it gets its secondary effect, and that is going to be absolutely huge for Antonio at the end of this game. And he now can spend a little more time focused on some of the other Pokemon on Eduardo's side and see if he can start picking up knockouts there. It looks like that's what he's going to be doing by just targeting down this Porygon 2 and getting another burn.
This Gastrodon is on an absolute rampage here. Just going to go and get the burn on that Porygon 2. Good coverage though here by Eduardo. Goes for the Wood Hammer into the Gastrodon in case it decides to stay. But I believe it went for the Thunderbolt as well in case the Corviknight decided to switch in. So Eduardo really making sure he was covering all his options, but Gastrodon able to get the burn on that Porygon 2 just manages to tick away at it a little bit more. I think the critical thing here though is that Snarl, because Porygon 2 then can't apply as much pressure to the Corviknight going forward if its special attack keeps being dwindled away. Of course, we have to double check the HP of that Corviknight. I can't quite remember what it will be switching back in on, but if it's relatively healthy, then Arcanine's going to be able to really help out that Porygon 2, really help out by lowering the special attack of that Porygon 2.
Yeah, the Corviknight's actually at full health. It had a fantastic run earlier in the game and was just able to set up entirely. So this Corviknight's probably feeling pretty good. The attack drops are down in the form of burns, and of course the special attack drops down in through the Snarl. So this Corviknight doesn't have the same kind of setup it did from earlier in the game after its Dynamax, but its partner Pokemon have been able to create those opportunities for him. And now there's going to be a number of switches going on here. If this Dragapult gets caught by something like a Snarl on the way in, it's going to be a good chunk of damage. And we'll see if this, Corviknight can kind of pick it off towards the end. This Rillaboom, though, really in a tough situation, I think, now.
Yeah, exactly. The Rillaboom definitely looking a bit precarious. Corviknight actually going for the Roost there, just in case Porygon 2 had dealt some good damage, and thanks to the environment of Trick Room, it looks like it was going to go last, so it would have been able to end that turn with its HP back to sort of the optimal level it wants to be at. Dragapult as well getting in for free as Trick Room ends. So this is actually a really great position for both the Corviknight and the Dragapult here. Rillaboom doesn't have really any offensive pressure on the field right now.
No, Rillaboom's not able to do anything with Grassy Glide, and it's not the quickest Pokemon. But that said, I mean, this Corviknight seems to be looking to play it a little defensively, definitely seeming a little nervous. No easy way to knock out this full health Dragapult, and of course there's no burn on that one, so Edoardo's going to be relying on this Dragapult. That's going to be his endgame win condition, is getting big damage out with the Dragapult, because his other Pokemon are a little underwhelming when it comes to dealing damage. So this Dragapult going to try and swing it completely in his favor.
I mean, we've seen the offensive output that Dragon Darts can do, but not necessarily to a Corviknight. Arcanine going to follow up with another one of these Snarls, just do some chip to the Rillaboom and some decent there to Dragapult, just wants to whittle away at it. The critical hit on the Rillaboom as well, really sort of helping out there. Of course, though, Corviknight going to be able to follow up with this Brave Bird, going to go straight into that Rillaboom and will be able to secure the KO, leaving Edoardo's down to just his Dragapult and his Porygon 2. Both Pokemon that this Corviknight can deal with relatively well when helped by the Snarl of that Arcanine.
Yeah, this Snarl's going to start to add up. Of course, there is the grassy terrain that's helping out for now, but there's no way to reset that, so eventually that is going to leave the field for us as well. A number of things to consider is just how much can you take from this Dragapult before you need to lower its attack stat, right? And honestly, this game looks like it's going to have to come down to Corviknight. Corviknight's the healthiest Pokemon on Antonio's side by a good stretch. I mean, the Arcanine well below half, and Corviknight up there with access to Roost as well, so probably a lot of considerations for Antonio in these last few turns of the game on how he's going to find a win condition here, because for the next couple of turns, Dragapult's probably going to be pretty free to just throw out attacks.
Well, no attack this turn. It's pretty free to disappear into the void as it goes for the Phantom Force. Snarl coming out once again from the Arcanine, critically again hitting that Porygon 2, just lowering that special attack. It needs to help out its Corviknight. Corviknight actually going to go for the bulk up here, so raising its attack and its defense. But I think the critical thing here is raising that attack, because yes, you can deal damage to the Porygon 2, but as you can see, Porygon 2 has access to recover, and it's not going to be able to deal too much without that attack boost. The Porygon 2 can't really sort of counteract with a recover, for example. So Corviknight really thinking about the end game here, making sure that it's set up in a position so that when it comes down to facing against that Porygon 2, it can deal big damage and pick up some KOs.
This Porygon 2 is gonna... I think we're gonna end up in a tale of kind of two Pokemon that can recover their own health with a move, and also try and deal as much damage as possible. So this Dragapult's Phantom Force heading towards the Arcanine does put all the pressure on the Corviknight right now.
Yeah, Arcanine returning to its Pokeball, and Corviknight here going to go for that Brave Bird out here at +1, going to target into that Dragapult that has rejoined the field. You can see how much damage it does. The only problem is, of course, Corviknight is going to be able to take that in recoil. The Thunderbolt going to go straight into that Corviknight, dealing some good damage, and this is now where things get a little bit interesting. Corviknight in a position where it's kind of forced to roost. Dragapult could go for another Phantom Force, so you don't have to worry about it this turn, but you still have to worry about a Thunderbolt coming up from that Porygon 2.
This roost is going to be a really slow way for Antonio to win the game, but his tournament life is at stake here. If he loses now, he's going home in the losers round 2, so he's got to play to his outs, and it might not be the most glamorous at times, but roosting for a little while here, certainly the most glamorous, more glamorous than going home. So this game, if Antonio is going to be able to stay in, could be a slow burner, could be really kind of slow to get through, but it's important for him to do that, and I know a lot of players aren't always a fan, but that's what you've got to do when you're in the best position possible. This Phantom Force actually buys him a good chunk of time.
It definitely buys some time to go for that roost, which we see him going for, and of course taking away that flying type as well will help you out against the Thunderbolt from that Porygon 2, but unless Corviknight's able to deal some good damage against his Porygon 2, possibly with even 2 hits, it's going to be in a little bit of trouble. And I like this play by the Porygon 2, because not only will it now be really speedy in the Trick Room environment, but the Dragapult's going to be last to come back to the field, so it's relatively safe for this turn from the Corviknight.
Yep, and that's actually really kind of cool when players are able to do that, right? Are able to turn around the speeds when there's a Pokemon off the field. It's a play that takes a little bit of work to get used to, but it's been really good. We've seen it in the past with something like Skydrop as well. Corviknight, though, back to full health, nearly. A little bit short, as the Phantom Force, yeah, pretty underwhelming from this Dragapult. So, certainly interesting on how Antonio's going to have to focus to see out the rest of this game. Obviously, though, he doesn't have access to be able to roost before the Thunderbolt anymore, so things get a little bit harder for him in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, the defense boost there from the bulk up really helping out as well against the Dragapult. Like you said, really underwhelming damage, and something like Phantom Force that takes 2 turns as well does allow the Corviknight to be able to get that roost up and kind of negate the damage that's being dealt out. The problem is this Porygon 2. Going for that Thunderbolt once again into Corviknight, dealing a decent chunk of damage, but actually not enough to be in any kind of terrifying position. You know, Corviknight can now take another one of those and roost. It's KO'd that Dragapult now with the Iron Head. It just has to worry about this Porygon 2, and I think unless Porygon 2 is able to maybe get a critical hit, Corviknight's going to be able to survive, go for roost, and within Trick Room, we're going to see that dynamic of turns go through until Trick Room is over.
I'm going to be honest, Antonio's a braver man than I would not be going into this hoping that that doesn't happen, but Corviknight, as you mentioned, is going to be in a good position. Corviknight's going to be healing up more than it's taking every single turn as well. So, yeah, he's going to have to lock those moves in quickly every single time. But there comes a point where soon he'll be able to start roosting before, or, you know, or like Eduardo's going to have to drop a turn to reset Trick Room, and that's when he's able to start carving open that advantage, right? So he has to play the long game. He has to play this slow burner, something that Corviknight players haven't always thought about so much, and the burns have added up and forced this Porygon actually to give Eduardo a kind of turn off, which puts Antonio right back in the game.
Yeah, both these players utilising this turn to do some good old-fashioned HP recovery. Porygon 2 with, obviously, Recover, and Corviknight there with the Roost as Trick Room ends. So both Pokemon actually kind of being in a slightly interesting position at the end of that, both at full HP. Relatively, you know, Porygon has a little bit of chip, but Porygon 2 actually able to get that Trick Room back off, and I like that play by Antonio, you know, going for the Iron Head to maybe try and get the flinch, but it wasn't enough, and I think that's the other critical thing you have to note. The Iron Head only did about a quarter damage. Like, this Corviknight has to be able to deal out more offensive pressure, otherwise Porygon 2 can just go for those recovers. It goes for another Thunderbolt, deals a decent chunk to that Corviknight, but Corviknight following up with another Iron Head, gonna whittle away at this Porygon 2.
Yeah, this Porygon 2 is getting pretty low. Like, this Porygon 2 is forced to recover this turn, because otherwise an Iron Head would do it, and we know that a Thunderbolt probably isn't going to. So they're really tough decisions for these trainers to make. There's the Porygon 2 forced to recover, and I'd be curious to see how Antonio decided to respond to that. The recover isn't bringing him back to full either, where these roosts actually are for the Corviknight. So in this really kind of slow ending, Antonio's a little bit ahead, just based on the fact he's not burned. He's not taking any residual damage. So, you know, I think Antonio's probably feeling pretty good. And he's got 10 more roosts left.
I mean, it's minuscule damage that, you know, the advantage is happening, but as you said, Porygon 2 is not able to regain as much health as that Corviknight is. Thunderbolt, they're once again going to come out, connect onto that Corviknight, as Corviknight goes for the Iron Head, and certainly in this Trick Room, the second one that Porygon 2's been able to set up in this game, the Corviknight has gone for a much more offensive approach, and it can afford to, you know, taking the first Trick Room to play a little bit more defensively and get those roosts up and make sure that you were in your prime position to be able to take down this Porygon 2 once you dealt with that pesky Dragapult, really has been a masterful play here by Antonio, and he's now in a position where his Corviknight can take another Thunderbolt, can go for another Iron Head, and as soon as Trick Room is over, if that Porygon 2 is in a position where one more Iron Head will get the KO, that's exactly what it's going to be able to do.
Yeah, he's got to be so careful about when the Trick Room ends. And that's something that obviously Antonio's going to be able to track as well and keep an eye on. And like you say, he has to be nice and healthy when the Trick Room ends because he needs time to set it up and recover as well. So a lot of kind of investment into, I think, perfect play from Eduardo and Antonio. The fact he's not taking much damage from these Thunderbolts because of those snarls, something we can't undervalue from earlier in the game. Really kind of smart play from him there. There's another recover. It's still not bringing him all the way back to full health right now.
No, and the Iron Head coming out there. You know, you can see that the timer is being really whittled down as well. We've got less than a minute left on this full game timer here. So that's going to be an interesting mechanic to look at when you address the HP stats of these Pokemon as well. If that's a situation that these Pokemon players find themselves in. Corviknight, I think identifying that as well, wants to go for the Roost and make sure its HP is as full as it can be. It literally is. It's at full health. And Porygon 2 identifying the exact same position here and going for that recover.
Yeah, both trainers want to be at full, but there's also going to be that burn, which is just a little bit less, right? You know, it's that slight bit from burn is less than full health from roosting. So only 21 seconds left in this game. It's really been a long slog, and these trainers realizing, hey, we're not going to be able to weave in knockouts or anything like that. We just have to play to this battle end timer. So Antonio realizing, hey, I'm at full health. You're not. And that's a key piece of information that burn from earlier is going to get him. There he is in the menu. Looks like he wants to fire off an Iron Head, but I don't think it's going to matter in particular. That burn was absolutely essential. And what that means is we're going to be going to game 3. This is losers bracket round 2. This one is for all the Savage Speeders and Raspberry Racers. Tournament lives on the line. It's now a best of 1. Let's see who's going to be able to edge it.
I'm really looking forward to this one, Adam. It's that game 3 energy. They cannot afford another loss, otherwise they're out of the competition. And once again, Edoardo leading with this super offensive lead with the Terrakion and the Dragapult, and Antonio going once again for Corviknight and Amoonguss. We've seen this lead now in all 3 games. Do you think it's going to be anything different? Remember, Edoardo went for beat up in game 2.
I mean, I got so excited about the fact I was seeing beat up that I got a little distracted by the Amoonguss rage powdering. I don't know if that's a mistake you make twice, right? And I mean, I went off and quite honestly, I wasn't expecting to see that happen. I think where the Dynamax lands here is going to be the indicator of how this turn goes. So a lot going on. The Dynamax heading back to Terrakion. Could this be? Could it be the perfect execution of game 2 for Edoardo?
I mean, this is the ultimate flex. If you're going to disrespect the Rage Powder from that Amoonguss and try and go for that beat up strategy again, and if you're able to pull that off, that would be a phenomenal situation in the game 3, and I am literally shaking in anticipation. But first of all, we've got to get the other Dynamax on the field. Once again, it's going to be that Corviknight, a Pokemon that was so critical for Antonio, and it's a really good counter to this Terrakion, being able to go for those max airstreams and just deal out some really good damage. Also, the max steel spikes boosting up that defense are really, really helpful. Amoonguss actually going for the protect, has this Dragapult gun for the beat up, and then Edoardo is going to be in a fantastic position. No! Actually just goes for the Dragon Darts. Of course, Corviknight really not going to worry about this too much. It was the turn that could have been so much, but at least, you know, the Terrakion still got to be able to go for into max Rockfall here in this situation. Going to apply a nice big attack down on that Amoonguss, but the protect going to be able to keep Amoonguss hanging around going into that next turn to still apply pressure of that Rage Powder into that next turn. But oh, I'm just devastated there wasn't the beat up there. That was so intense.
Honestly, after what happened in the previous game, I think that it would have been pure bad manners to beat up in front of the Amoonguss again, right? Like, there's no way you make that call. And while we were both hoping for it, I know you were, like, I know I was too. You just can't do it. Like, I got so inspired by the fact I was seeing beat up that I forgot that huge issue was there. And, like, now that wasn't there, you could have had a huge turn. But Edoardo thinking, nope, I respect what happened in game 2. Not going to let this happen to me again, and just playing it safe. The Dragon Darts, though, really underwhelming in that situation. Amoonguss does Rage Powder this time, and if he's done it now, I'm going to be absolutely shocked.
Yeah, Antonio sitting. We're going to do no risks and Dragapult. Oh my goodness, going for the beat up here. Oh, poor Dragapult. Dragapult's just not doing anything right in this game, unfortunately. Oh, so unfortunate for him. Amoonguss being the champion once again and taking those beat-up moves away, and also going to redirect around this max Rockfall. Is also going to be able to survive. Amoonguss being so disrespectful here. As the max steel spike comes out from that Corviknight, going to boost up the defense on Antonio's side of the field there, and also pick a KO up against that Terrakion. But honestly, this Amoonguss turn 1, protect in the face of beat-up. Turn 2, brings away the beat up. Like, it's such a thorn in Edoardo's side at the minute, and if you're Edoardo, you have to be able to bring a Pokemon in now that's going to be able to help you go through the rest of this game. You've lost your Dynamax, your Dragapult is definitely not playing the right rules at the moment, and your opponent has still got that Corviknight at really full HP, and the Amoonguss is sitting there going to be up to some shenanigans.
Amoonguss has been a playable Pokemon for 9 years now. When will people learn that you can't BM in front of an Amoonguss? It's just not acceptable. Bad manners against Amoonguss means you get Rage Powdered and you are going to be put behind in the game. So that's just a crazy good turn from Antonio to say, well, I baited you with the Protect turn 1, and now you're going to get caught with the Rage Powder turn 2. That is such a good heads-up play from him. I love the way it exudes confidence in this tournament to turn around and say, you know what, I feel good about the way this is going, and I think he's put himself in such a great position. He's got another turn, of course, of this Dynamax to go, while Edoardo doesn't have his Dynamax available anymore. A nice adaptation here, actually. The Grimmsnarl, something we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl going to come in, obviously not going to be affected by the Dragon Darts as well, and Corviknight can take them all day long, does not mind that at all. As the Corviknight once again goes for that max Steel Spike, going to target down into this Dragapult, deal a decent amount of damage. Of course, there's going to be no more Dynamax on Eduardo's side as well, so this Corviknight going to be able to deal out so much damage without the worry of that Dynamax anymore, and that defense boost really going to help it out against that Dragapult. Of course, however, the bane of Antonio's battle here is that Porygon 2, and it's been able to set up Trick Room once again. Grimmsnarl coming in, though, I think is a really, really nice adjustment here. Having Prankster means you don't really mind about the speed tiers at the moment. You can easily go for something like the Reflect and the Light Screen, and Light Screen in particular will really help out that Corviknight.
Yeah, this Corviknight's got defense boosts. All it actually needs is some special defense boosts, and those are certainly options. There's some cool options in Taunt as well, so I think if Trick Room ends and this Grimmsnarl's still in the field, which it very reasonably could be, right? There's not really a good answer to it showing right now. If that's the case, you can just stop that Trick Room nonsense from happening any further, and I kind of like that. I think this Grimmsnarl's actually a really good addition. Setting up the screens is quicker and more reliable than something like the Snarl. The screen makes up for the defense boost that hasn't been boosted already. And yeah, we'll see how these Thunderbolts go. That one is a lot because it's a critical hit.
Oh my goodness, Adam, you did it again. You cursed the commentary here. That Porygon 2 just went, hey, you can do your screens. I don't mind. Here you go, Thunderbolt, Oko, and the Corviknight has now left the field. I mean, so unfortunate there for Antonio. So unfortunate.
I apologize. I shouldn't have said that this Thunderbolt would be fine to take, but that is obviously the curse of the commentator. That's a huge swing in momentum. Getting rid of the Corviknight, which was the problem. The Corviknight was kind of looking to be in a position to sit on the field and just tank up hits for a bit, roost a little bit, sit behind some screens and hang out with its friend Grimmsnarl. That option has been taken away now, thanks to that critical hit from Porygon 2. So a huge Thunderbolt, really kind of bringing Edoardo quickly back into this game after a pretty disastrous first 2 turns. This game is crazy back and forth, and both trainers doing their best to find that opportunity to win this one and head on through to the next round. But I don't want to predict the next turn because I'm sure I'm going to ruin it for someone.
Honestly, that Porygon 2 is like the luckiest, canniest, and most reckless Pokemon I've ever seen in my life. Going for that Thunderbolt so boldly. The Ice Beam going to come out and go into that Grimmsnarl, do a little bit of damage. As Grimmsnarl follows up, though, with a Spirit Break. Going to go into the Porygon 2 there. Deal small amount of damage, though, but critically lower that special attack. And that's going to help out the Amoonguss a little bit more, you know, potentially taking those Ice Beams. Grimmsnarl, however, going to go down to the Wood Hammer. Obviously, in terrain, going to be super strong. And there's no Reflect Up on the field. It was only the Light Screen. Honestly, I'm really devastated for Antonio in this situation. He played it so masterfully, making sure the Corviknight had the defense boosts up, and then he got the Grimmsnarl on the field and got the special defense boost up with the Light Screen. Just played so well for him, and he was in a great position. You know, Brave Bird can really tackle the Rillaboom. You can start maybe going for bulk up so you can really counter that Porygon 2 better. And just, you know, Porygon 2 had something else to say about it and really changed the game. So Antonio now down to his Amoonguss and the Arcanine. Intimidate, yeah, sure, it's going to be great for the Rillaboom and can apply some pressure with the Heat Wave. But there's really not a lot you can do to this Porygon 2 at the moment. We've seen how well it can utilize Recover and use its bulk to last out a game, and Eduardo's been able to put it in a position that it's taken some big KOs, and now it can sit and prevent itself from being KO'd.
I think the best thing to do here is exactly what Antonio looks to be doing, which is put it to sleep and try and knock out everything else before it comes back in. Ideally, you can get it to sleep, clean up the rest of Eduardo's team, and then maybe deal with it when you get to the end, but you're missing that win condition that he had in the last time, which was being able to also recover through Roost, while Porygon 2 just used a regular recover. So I think this is his best option here. Obviously, Heat Wave is going to be putting down some good damage on both, but Rillaboom is able to fire back a high horsepower. Not the most offensive, but the damage key to dealing with Amoonguss, who can't switch out and Regenerator anymore. Oh my.
Exactly, no switching for that Amoonguss, and high horsepower is something that if you're the Arcanine you have to be concerned about as well. I mean, even the grass type moves coming from a Rillaboom can deal some big damage to that Arcanine, but particularly if it's got the utility to use a ground type move, that's something Arcanine doesn't want to face down against. Heat Wave as well, missing that Porygon 2 is unfortunate. You want to be able to try and chip away at it as much as possible, and again, that kind of plays into the mind game of Heat Wave can miss, and it has to connect on this Rillaboom, otherwise it's really curtains for Antonio.
I think this Rillaboom is going to need a couple of turns to deal enough damage with high horsepower, right? So at least he's got a little wiggle room there, but Antonio definitely probably wishes he had Corviknight right now, to be quite honest with you. Rillaboom avoiding any high horsepower nonsense though. Grassy Glide into a Moongus. Not enough even with a critical hit, but a Moongus looks like it's going to be able to start dealing as much damage as it possibly can. There's that Sludge Bomb that's really nice play to start dealing more damage with Heat Wave by single targeting stuff actually.
Yeah, getting rid of the Rillaboom from play. I think, was that the Snarl missed on the Porygon 2?
It was, yeah. No Snarl hitting there. The Snarl unable to deal with it. Yeah, that's huge because you really want it to land there. I think maybe he was trying to fish for the Dragapult to come in and be able to catch that as well. There's still a little Trick Room going on as well, which could be, unless I missed the ending there, but this Arcanine has got to do it all right now.
Exactly, all the pressure is on that Arcanine. The Amoonguss going to go for the Protect though, doesn't want to take any damage and wants to maybe try and help out the Arcanine going forward, but Dragon Dart's coming out from this Dragapult's been able to come back in, going to be able to deal so much damage. You know, there's no burn on this Dragapult in this situation. Arcanine going to go for that Snarl once again. Can chip away at that Porygon 2 and that Dragapult, but the fact that Dragapult's still on the field and can apply that pressure with the Dragon Dart is just going to be, I think, a little bit too much of a problem for Antonio. Thunderbolt coming out from that Porygon 2, no critical hits this time, but Arcanine's still in that really precarious position. I think Dragapult is just such an offensive powerhouse in this situation, and the fact that the Amoonguss hasn't been able to switch out and use that regenerator means that I think one Dreepy might be able to take it down.
Yeah, I think this Dragon Darts, now the Trick Room's ended, which I did kind of miss out on when I was thinking about the turn order. The Dragapult's just able to clean up now, right? I mean, yeah, the special attack is really, really low on this Porygon, but in the end, it's going to be able to get the Arcanine, no matter what happens. And as you mentioned, this Amoonguss isn't going to be able to take another Dragon Darts. There isn't that boost from Reflect. There's only the Light Screen. So even though the Dragapult very, very low, it's in a great position right now to try and kind of close out this game for Edoardo, even if it had a rough time earlier with the beat-ups.
Yeah, Amoonguss going for Protect once again as Dragapult fires off the Dragon Darts. Dreepy, however, going to go straight into that Arcanine. Arcanine will, however, actually sort of have a little saving grace here where it's got the berry. It can regain a little bit of HP with the IAPA berry and take a Nulla Dreepy, leaving it just at only 15 HP. Going for another Snarl here. Still not enough to pick up the KO against that Dragapult, however. And Porygon 2, even though its special attack is being dwindled so low, the HP of Antonio's side of the field as well is not exactly looking healthy. So I think that Dragapult here just being able to fire off so much damage followed up by anything Porygon 2 does. I think if Edoardo just goes on the offensive here, he's going to be able to advance in this competition.
There's not much you can do about Dragon Darts. It's a really good move that obviously plays so smartly around things like Protect and all that. So Amoonguss felled, as you mentioned earlier, by the single Dreepy of Dragon Darts. Didn't even need both of them. And this Arcanine's not going to be able to pull this one back. You know, I think if the Arcanine hadn't protected there, it got knocked out anyway. So no easy way to get through Dragon Darts. Means Edoardo swings the game so drastically back in his favor on a big turn for his Porygon too. I don't think we can undervalue how important that turn was to this game plan.
I mean, the Porygon 2 was the absolute star of the show there, and huge congratulations to Edoardo, of course, for advancing, but